Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Wanyuki Cheese Cafe, and I'm coming to you right now in the war zone that is my backyard. This is a little project I've had in the works for the last couple of days, and I thought this could be a fun little side project to do, in addition to taking care of some wanders around the city as I get to the closing time of my vacation. So, as you already know, gardening, backyard DIY stuff is always something I've been very passionate about. And if you want to see me work in my garden, which is one of my other things I like to do in my spare time, I'm going to put a card in the top right corner for you and you can watch that one. But today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I want to be installing a patio, or at least fixing up a patio to be able to support a brand new shed so that it'll be a little bit more stable, I'll have a foundation, and then the stones aren't going to be unleveled. They're not going to be shifting around as I go through a lot of freeze and thaw cycles. And it's actually pretty straightforward to do, although it's going to be very labor intensive due to the nature of the project, but figured why not? Could show off a little bit of the project, get a little bit more material going on to get episode 301 started. But before we get onto it, here's what I suggest for you. Click that subscribe button below and put the notification bell on, because that way, if there's a new video ready to view, you're going to get a pop-up on your phone. And while you're at it, give me a like. The more likes I get, the more these videos are promoted all across YouTube, so it does help me a lot more than you realize. Now, where do I begin? Maybe I could show you a little bit of a recap of what I had over here. So, about 12 to 13 years ago, when I was first moving into this house, one thing I wanted to do was I took care of a little bit of work on this corner garden. Originally, it looked like it was a fenced-off garden, had a couple of rocks, stones, flowers growing, and a couple of ashes from the barbecue from when they were working their fire pit. But I decided I want to do something a little better. So I bought these patio stones from Home Depot, laid them on top after doing a bit of digging, and then used that to kind of have a bench, have a fire pit that sadly rusted apart, and make it a cozy corner near the shrubs. But what I realized is that I only did half of the job properly, because when you're laying down stones directly on top of the dirt, you're going to be subjected to the freeze-thaw cycles that happen in the winter over here, because I live up here in Canada. So as the soil freezes, it unfreezes, and then it's going to shift around, and then this stuff is actually going to move around and possibly even sink in. So what you need to do is you need to give it some backing to be able to support and then not have any movement at all. And this is going to be important if you're laying down a shed, because you need it level and you want it to, basically shift like you would expect it to. But there is a little bit of prep work that I had to do to get this started. So what I had to do is I had to work around some of the garden I had planted here initially in the corner, which had some, I forget what type of plant it was. It always seems to escape me. But then I also had to rework my lavender, which I love the smell of, and move it somewhere else and hope it doesn't die because of shock from being transplanted. So basically what I did was I dug all this up, made some room for what I would need for the shed, and then afterwards I would kind of see if I can level off the dirt here to a degree, because it's not going to be perfect obviously, but honestly I think it's already going to be an improvement anyways. So here we go, and usually you would have some kind of a landscaping tool for it, but I have this old 2x4 that was left over from when I was working my garden, and I probably shouldn't have put it in because it is starting to rot at the bottom here. Wood rot is a serious thing. Oh, what am I talking about? Maybe not that serious. But then, nevertheless, once you have all of your ground leveled off to as much of a degree as possible, then you can get to your next step, which is working some landscaping fabric. And of course, camera's on, mic's on, good. So there's two types of landscaping fabric you're going to find. There's a light duty one that you would see in stores, which is mostly for flower beds, for basic gardens. But you need to get this one, woven weed barrier, which is a bit stronger, and it's made for pavement, because when you're moving around stone and rock, it is going to be a little more heavy duty than soil. So you got to make sure that this thing cannot tear as you're moving it around. And this thing is going to be about 3 feet by 50 feet, so it covers quite a bit of ground. In terms of the space of what I need for my shed, that thing, hang on, I'm going to get my knife. That thing is going to be approximately 8 feet deep by 10 feet long. But a good rule of thumb is that try to get a bit more rocks and a bit more surface covered just in case. It's always better to have a little bit more space with stone than not enough. Okay, so I got this pulled off. I'll worry about this later. Other glove on. And I'm gonna work around the two because what I had here were these little pegs. Actually, maybe I can show you soon. These pegs are what I had left over from old gardening projects. And I just put this here so I had an idea of what type of surface area I'm gonna be working with and how big I'm gonna need to cover this. So I got one here, one back there, and 10 feet away from that spot. So I'm probably gonna be removing this anyways once I start to lay down the stones. But again, it does give me an idea of where I'm gonna have to lay the paved stones, the rocks, and then where the base of the shed is gonna be. There we go. So I went a little bit past the 8 feet that I need here, so I'm just going to be cutting this up. Oh. Yeah, I know. I'm dirtying up my blade, but in this point, I don't care because I just want to make sure that this thing is cut well enough to cover it. Okay, so that's also going to be 3 feet up to 10. So I'm... come on. Okay, maybe scissors would have been a better idea, but whatever. There we go. So I got a little bit above 10 feet, 8 feet here, still about 3 feet wide here. So I'm gonna have to put another layer until I get to the rest of the coverage I need. And what I think I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna be taking my wood, laying this on top over here, so at least I can have this as a little bit of support. What the? Broken glass. Sure, why not? To be honest, it's not as crazy as some of the other stuff I found buried in my yard before. All right, so I got all the landscaping fabric covering the surface and a little bit more to give me a little bit of flexibility. And as you can see, because I'm getting a little bit of wind and I think cloud, because there's allegedly a chance of rain this morning. Who knows if that's really true, but you know what weather is like these days. But yeah, it's laid down, and I had these bricks I had probably buried in my yard that I was using for landscaping before, and decided I'm just gonna use them as placeholders to hold this into place while I get the rest of the stone put in. How much stone are you wondering about? Well, here's the fun part about it. So yeah, what you're looking at over here is about 2.5 tons of crushed stone and 1/2 ton, well actually it's probably not visible from here with this angle, but I'll show you it later on. Basically the way that you'd work this is that you have to get some 3/4 inch crushed stone, and then you're going to lay that on top of the fabric so that it's going to be able to give a little bit of support. Obviously we'll have to compact it, but we'll get to that a little bit later. What I can say is that you can get these in the bag, probably like around $4 or $5 Canadian dollars for 66 pounds. But if you go to most landscaping places, you can actually tell them the surface size that you want, depth that you need, and then they'll be able to give you the amount and just deliver it to you, which means dumping it all in your driveway. I'm not going to complain because it's the first landscaping project I'm doing like this, so I kind of know what I'm expecting to get into. Of course, I am going to probably use a bucket here, as you know, unideal as it is. Typically you would get a wheelbarrow for yourself to move it from one place to the other, but because I don't have one and was having trouble trying to find one that was in stock and affordable for my need, I'm just going to start getting a shovel and then just laying this on top over here until I'm not able to carry any more, and then I'll just bring it over to the other side of the house. So let's see how that feels. Okay, that feels all right. I can do a little bit more. And the good news with this too is that as I'm moving along rocks and then putting them in here, that's going to hold it down to be able to give me a little bit more support so I could get rid of these stones eventually. Everybody wins. So that's one bucket down, and you know, I'm not even going to keep track of how many buckets it takes. I could kind of tell that it was raining last night just because some of the rocks on the surface are all gray, dried out, but then it's a darker shade of gray if you go further into the pile. I don't know, just a little something I noticed. All right. I feel like I worked about half of that pile that's over up in the front of my driveway, but I'm sure there's a little bit more, so I'm gonna have to move. And to be honest, for the surface area I need for the deck, I think I have way more rocks than I need, but it's good to have a little bit more than not enough. And at the same time, what I might do is use it for some extra landscaping around this yard, since I got the rocks laying around. So what I'm gonna do, since I've been doing back and forth non-stop, just gonna take a quick break for lunch because I am getting kind of hungry. We'll be right back, and maybe we'll be able to finish off the stones by the end of the day, if we're lucky. But I'm not gonna show the full process because you can kind of see what I'm doing, and I think of all the things to show off on camera, me laying down stones is not one of them. That's not interesting enough. I'm making a dent over here, and I might be on the home stretch for doing these stones. Might be able to finish off in the next hour. So once again, you have to have at least 4 inches of depth to be able to have enough foundation to support your deck and your patio. So you're wondering, how am I going to be measuring that? Well, simple enough is, like I said, there are these pegs I had that were left over from a gazebo, some gardening stuff or whatever, and I just laid it down to the ground and measured my measuring tape to get 4 inches up. So that means once I get it like up to here, then I know that I'm going to be able to have enough height, and then afterwards we'll be able to even the rest of this out and then get the compactor. Hopefully I can do it too, because they close pretty early, like 4 or 5 p.m. my time, and I guess they mostly work with contractors. The good news is that they're 2 blocks, actually 1 block away from my house, so it means I could just push it around. Anyways, getting on to the home stretch, so let's see how much more I could do. Whew. So, I actually managed to finish this earlier than I anticipated today, so that means that I got the majority of my stones all laid out. I've evened it out using some extra lumber that's around, the rake to kind of even it out, so that means I'm more or less good to go to get this thing compacted, which would be the next step. Oh, let's get this earphone out because I was listening to some music and such while working. So now, I am going to have a little bit of extra stone over in the back. Like, I'd probably estimate it's about 2 feet by 4 feet by 4 feet, 4 inches, which gives me enough depth that in case I want to reduce some patio stones around here, I could just play around with it. Now, the good news, like I said, the tool rental place is just a hop and a skip away from my house, and I still have some time before they close down, so I'm probably going to head back over there, come back, and then the next step we're going to do is compact this all and show you how it's going to be done. And I guess show myself how it's going to be done, because it will be my first time compacting. We'll see how it goes. I don't know where I left my sunglasses, but it feels like I misplaced them when I was doing the whole rush to get the stones out that I don't know where they are. Hopefully I'll find them. Hopefully they're not damaged, and hopefully they're not hidden somewhere that I'm going to regret later on. But anyways, just to give you a recap, I took care of the stones yesterday, but I ran into an issue where when I wanted to do my rental of the compressor, it turns out the shop near my home is closed at 3:30 p.m. because here in Quebec we have construction holiday that happens on the last 2 weeks of July, where most construction workers are going to be on vacation. That could be a joke in and of itself, depending on how you feel about construction work in Montreal in general. But nevertheless, it just means I have reduced hours, and then I decided I was going to come back the next day to be able to pick this up. Although truth be told, when you do a rental, you usually get about a good 24 hours when you pay for that. So it means I didn't have to rush for it. I could pick this up, take care of a few things around the house, and then be able to work on this. So this here is a compressor where you could compact your stones. You can get them in varying sizes depending on the level of work you're doing, but something like a DIY project of what you're doing over here, it's going to be enough, like just an 8x10 or possibly even a 10x10. So what I'm going to do is there's a way to power this on by the gas. I'll admit it's the first time I'm doing something gas powered. Then I'm just going to set the power just enough so that this is going to compress, and it's going to add a little stability. Because as I'm walking around here now, yeah, there's a bit of a pressure, like I know that stones are going down as I walk. So with this, it's going to level it off a little bit more. Then the screening sand that's around, that's going to be enough to finish it off and maybe level it even more. So, let's see if I can get this on. Well, first time working this compactor, but not bad for a first try. So all these crushed stones are now compressed, packed down as much as possible. It's not going to be perfect, but like I said, I just need to get some screening sand onto here, and then any dips and crevices that's going to be here are all going to be aligned properly. And then after that, we could get going on laying down the stones. Now, oh, right, I seem to have cut myself with one of these rose bushes. I guess it's true. Every rose has its thorn. One of those no shit Sherlock kind of situations. So I've put a little bit of the screening of sand over here, and this is around the point where I want to have my stones beginning. Once again, this is like a 10-foot by 8-foot shed, give or take, but I want to give myself a little bit of leeway just to be on the safe side. So I'm just evening this out. Then what I'm going to be doing is I'm taking one of the stones I removed from my patio, and I'm just going to lay it on top right here. And, okay, this looks good here. Now, let's take my level. Looks like it's a little bit uneven, so I need to raise this up a little bit more, or take a mallet and then compress it down. Because once again, Actually, no, I didn't tell you. You would need a mallet if you're laying down some stonework, because the last thing you want to do is use a regular hammer, and then as a result, you're going to end up cracking the stones. Doesn't seem to be working out right now. Or maybe what I need, so it's a twofold thing. It's either raise it on this side, or I'm just gonna add a little bit more sand here, but just a little bit more. I probably shouldn't use my bare hands, but whatever. And now let's see how this looks. Okay, looking at my level, and it's just about perfect. So I'm happy with it. So I had a little bit of a change of heart and a change of plan when I was working this. Originally I thought I'll bring a little bit of the screening sand over here, then get the stone blocks all laid down, but then I thought, let's try to clear the driveway as much as possible and just bring what I needed. And I think that's actually going to be a bit more of a benefit, because I was having a bit of trouble leveling out all of that, but I thought I wasn't putting enough sand, like not as much as I should. So I just took the majority of it, laid it all on top. Then what I'm going to be doing tomorrow is I'm just going to even it all out. That way I'll have a bit more, like maybe an inch thickness of it, so that any bows, any dips that are the result because of it not compressing well on some parts, that's going to be making it stable, and then it'll be easier for me to lay down the blocks atop. And obviously this is a lot more work than I realized, between compressing the stones, putting all the sand there, because that was a lot to transport, and my body's starting to feel a little bit sore today. So I think I'm just going to kick back and relax, have a nice IPA to relax, and then tomorrow I'm going to be returning the compactor to the local store, get the stones all leveled out, and then finally get the blocks laid. And then hopefully I'll be able to use that to build my shed over the weekend. Stay tuned. So here we are on the next day, continuing this patio project, and I'm just trying to lay down all my stones right now that I've laid quite a bit of the sand over here to even things out. As you'll see, I have a different type of block that I was using before, which looked like a bunch of bricks all laid down together with, it's almost supposed to be like imitation brick with like crevices over here. But I also have these other stones too that seem to be slightly larger, like minutely larger, but I thought at this point, nobody's going to see at all what the walkway is going to look like. So if I put this down, then it might make it a little bit easier in case I start to run out of the other stones. Because these are maybe about 16 inches by 16 inches. This one is 17.5 inches by 17.5 inches. So it might, save me a little bit of space and save some supplies. So there we go. And of course, I'm going to have to even this out and raise out a little bit. I didn't show the entire process because the reality too is that sometimes you just need to take a step back and you need to take a break from yourself, even though you have a project you want to do from start to finish on camera. Sometimes you can't show everything you want to do on camera because, you got to turn yourself off, focus on the work. Okay, almost even. Yep, it's as good as it's gonna get. I want to try to get this as level as possible over here, but I know that since I don't have too much heavy machinery here, I'm doing the best I can with what I need. What I do know is that compared to when I had this patio installed originally, there's a lot more support here than I had before. Because once again, I had this just directly over dirt where the previous owners had a garden, and then there was a lot of shifting going around with it. But I'm not, again, too concerned about it, because what I could do is I could show you quickly the shed that I'm working on, and then we'll see if we can wrap things up over here. So this is the shed that I have right here. It's about 8 feet by 10 feet, although slightly less than that to account for a few extra inches. And I got it at Costco for like a good 1,800 bucks Canadian. It looks well done. It got decent windows, a good sized door. It's made of vinyl as opposed to wood, so it's not gonna rot. And it looks like it's an easy snap-on assembly. Full disclosure too, I was opening up one of the boxes because it's a 2-box ordeal, just so I know what I'm getting into for the assembly. I'll check the instructions later on when I do assemble this thing, but it looks like this is the flooring that folds up, and then you just lay it on top. And judging by this, it looks like that this is supposed to be a full wood at the bottom. And then at the bottom here are these dimpled membranes. Typically, when you're doing it, installing a basement subfloor, you do need to have a dimpled membrane here, because my understanding is that if any water gets underneath, like, you know, dripping from the side of the wall, maybe there's a crack in your concrete, or there's a slight flood, minor flood, not the full-scale flood, you need to have this to let air pass through, because any water that's going to be under here is going to be drying up with all the air that passes through it. And by the looks of it too, I feel like, yeah, this thing is going to be very soft and flexible. So that means that if there's a little bit of dips here and there, or like leftover rocks that kind of got in by mistake, this thing is going to bend into shape. It's a bit like when you're putting in an underlayment for a laminate floor too. A thick one means it'll, if there's any screws that are out or any other, you know, debris that's still there, it helps to even it out and just kind of subdues it. It's not going to be perfect, but once again, compared to what I had previously and compared to the other shed that I have, this is already going to be an improvement. Yeah, so looking forward to finishing this off. And sadly though, I'm going to see if I can get this done quickly in the next couple of days, since I do have to go back to work next week as I record this. It's a little too bad, because I always say I flourish the most when I'm away from the office and I'm on vacation, because then I can do a combination of taking care of my family, seeing friends I don't see very often, get housework done, but then as well as doing some fun stuff too. And I'd say with everything I've done over these last 2 weeks, I got a pretty solid library of vlogs that are going to be coming up over the next few weeks. So it'll be probably up until mid to late August, I would say, to have all my schedule all set to go. And as long as there's new projects to be doing at home, new place to see in Montreal, I'm going to keep having all of the new material to work with down the road. So until next time, thanks for watching this latest edition of the Wanyuki Cheese Cafe. If you like what you see, you know what to do. That's right. Hit that subscribe button below and give me a thumbs up if you enjoy the projects I do at home, the wanders I do in the city, the jokes I tell sometimes, stories I share, and then everything that comes in between everything. And if you have any ideas for future episodes, leave in the comments section and I'll see if I can do it one of these days. But until then, take care, see you next time, and above all else, enjoy the ride. And I'll just finish this off on my own. That way, hopefully, I'll be able to show you the final result.